Episode 3 has a lot of issues and has animation. So we're going to be covering the good and the bad of this episode to find out which outweighs the other in this particular episode. Let me know in the comments below, or you can join the Discord if I've missed anything or whatever else you want to talk about. So firstly, we're going to be covering the bad. For me, the worst thing in this entire episode is a sequence that takes an entire minute of screen time and has literally zero animation. I know that people have been saying that this is just sliding PNG the anime, which, although not entirely inaccurate, is quite hateful. But in this case, for this particular 1 minute span, is 100% true. See, we get 4 panning shots of the monsters, the specimens from Dr. Genius's lab, and the S-class heroes. These are here for us as a backdrop while Dr. Genius explains kind of the beginnings of the theory of monsterization in One Punch Man and Saitama's place in that kind of power system. He's comparing the monsters to his creatures and how they both have physical attributes to mark their power up. They become monsters essentially. And in the House of Evolution, he engineers the monsters, and he does that by drawing from other creatures. So that's why these two groups look kind of messed up. But the heroes, they don't. But they have the same powers as the characters that do look like hideous monsters. So there's something to that. Something that has only really been truly hit, narratively in the manga very recently, the past 2 weeks. However, that's a discussion for another day. The issue is that these are panning shots for detail, and that is it. They are straight adaptations from the manga. It is insanely accurate to the manga, something that JC in this have been very good at. Not almost, but to a fault. It seems to lack creativity from JC. See, these panels should have been approached as an issue rather than a free storyboard. When you're transitioning something from anime to manga, there's a lot of things that need to be taken into consideration. The fact that these are 4 pages in the manga that have roughly about 9 sentences, something along those lines, a reader gets through that in about 17 seconds. Less. I'm dyslexic. That's how long it took me. So these, although are just designs of characters that I've seen in the past, it does add a little bit of context to the information that's given, and I slap through them very quickly. But in the anime, you have to get a voice actor to explain those lines, to act those lines because of the medium, right? So a solution that works for manga doesn't work for anime, because it's a minute of nothingness. In my last video, which was anime versus manga for episode 3, I mentioned a few ways that they maybe could have broken this up and improved it, but needless to say, they approached it incorrectly. They saw it as a storyboard and ran straight with it, making it a panning shot so that it fit in screen, rather than use it as opportunity to show something else off. Now, I'm well aware of budgets and how JC have been really fucked over with this season of One Punch Man. They were fucked over with the last season of One Punch Man too, but as a product, it's lacking in this department. And that department is creativity. I'm not saying that Aoki or Shinpai Nagai or anyone involved in the creation of this anime is uncreative. That's not what I'm saying at all. However, there is a consistent, either because of limitations or because of effort, who knows, we don't know anything about what's going on behind the scenes. There is a lack in creativity when it comes to planning some of these shots and adapting material that isn't necessarily anime friendly. I'm not sure exactly how they would adapt the panning shot into anime. That's not my job. However, Dr. Genius is talking about his experience and information he has gathered. You could have had him doing a study on when he's talking about his subjects, show him studying the subjects in a test tube or something, or watching all the warriors he created fight in that arena that we saw in season 1. And when it comes to the monsters, you could actually just show us footage that we've already seen of those monsters. Although it's a reuse of animation, it serves infinitely better than a panning shot for a solid 20 seconds. And that's not to say you shouldn't use these graphics. They work great. Slap that in, then transition to those characters on screen for added context. And this issue of creativity isn't exclusive to this section, right? Because when we see conversations with Saitama and the group, they seem to just stay in pose from the manga. They stay in pose and don't move around like, people do. Like, for example, Saitama is holding his Game Boy here while he's playing, but his hands aren't moving. When you're playing a Game Boy, you move. Your hands move. as you're hitting the buttons and stuff. So the Game Boy should at least be like kind of jugged around a little bit. Limitations are limitations, but that doesn't mean the issues don't exist. Another bad thing that I found hilarious is that in the Royal Ripper fight, which we'll get to in a second, for a few frames, he appears to be a woman. Now, there's some miscommunication at some point, and they must have thought that Royal Ripper was a woman. So Royal Ripper gains some little biddies while he's fighting, which, to be honest, I saw when I was watching it the first time round, and I didn't even think that it was a mistake per se. Are we just going to ignore the fact that Royal Ripper is a cross-dresser wearing female shoes and a dress? I honestly just thought, hell, shit, maybe he's wearing a bra too. Or maybe that's just the shape of the dress coming out because air is flowing through it or something. And I didn't necessarily think, ooh, it was a mistake. It's the gender bent my character. Because some people actually found issue with that. Like, things like that, I only see as kind of like a funny feature. It didn't lessen that animation at all. And reminds me a lot of when the 2x Araki draws a female character or a male character and decides, I changed my mind. And then suddenly Narantia is a guy. Or Anasui is a guy. You know? Anasui, is it Anasui? Diver down? I remember. That was a JoJo reference, by the way. Now let's talk about the good. Now, talk about the bad stuff, I hate doing it. I hate doing it. Mainly because this channel has kind of become a bit of a safe haven from all the hate that One Punch Man fans are spewing out in the open. And when I make videos about the differences in One Punch Man, I try not to be overly positive or negative in those videos. Because some people just want to watch a show that they kind of like. So I don't want to lessen their experience just because I need to get on some agenda or some shite. Let people love what they love unless it's underage. But the good animation, Aoki popped off, thank God. He brings hope into my life, into my soul about the other fights in this season. So this fight actually was leaked. People think that it was promotionally dropped. I have information that might suggest otherwise. Essentially, the theory is that that was sort of a casting call for animators. They were trying to recruit animators that could, do this, and they would send the animation that he made. So it's like, hey, if you can do this, we'd love to have you on JC staff, but it got leaked. So instead of, going battle stations, take it down, cut it off on the internet, they were like, oh, that's actually a promotional trailer. That's a promotional trailer. Let's upload it again, but on our channels. They made it good of a bad situation. That's all theory. I don't know if it's true or not, but it sounds pretty accurate, because why would they release a PT trailer with a lack in, music or sound effects? It don't make sense. But this animation, whether you hate One Punch Man Season 3 because of blah, 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 it's good. It's not unbelievable, See a lot of people comparing it to, Boku no Hero, and that's tough, because Boku no Hero is Boku no fucking Hero. And One Punch Man, although better in every way, in my opinion, it don't got the same love when it comes to the anime. But the animation in this fight is really good. It's so creative, and unlike most of the season so far, there's a lot of anime original scenes in it. Aoki went above and beyond, and I pray that he gets to do the ninjas fight later. I'm just saying the ninjas fight. I've had people being annoyed that they get spoiled. You're watching a One Punch Man video, bro. This shit all happened like 15 years ago. But if he can do the ninja fight to this quality, I'll be happy. I will be happy. As I said, the fight's really good because although it doesn't follow the manga one-to-one, there's a few issues of cut frames and stuff, and panels that weren't adapted. But one shot that shined so much for me is when Garo is flung into the electrical lines, because they change how that section pans out a lot, because in a manga you have to cut to image to image to image, and you as the creative reader you are put what's in between in your head. But in anime they don't. They have to show it, and they do this beautiful panning shot that, like, if I was a connoisseur, I'd be saying, like, it's just like that Daredevil Netflix shot that had the fight go on the entire time and it was uncut. It's a nice uncut section that is rare in this season of One Punch Man, and it just made me actually sit up and go like, okay, I see you, Aoki. Needless to say, with this fight, I'm very satisfied. The fight at the end, it's not so good, okay? It's serviceable. And if there was just a few more key animations between each shot, it would genuinely look really good, but it's way too choppy. There's a lack of detail in a lot of areas. So if I could see Aoki animate the Flashy Flash fight, that'd be great. And hell, I would love to see other really good animators come onto the project like they did in season 2 by one's request. So one good thing about this season is that Aoki is the fucking GOAT. And there is other areas in this episode where creativity was brought to the forefront, okay? It's not just all panel to panel translations from the manga. As I said in previous videos, I really love the emotional colored reaction shots we get from characters, whether that's Saitama being depressed or Blizzard being shocked, or Garo getting mollywomped for the 9,000th time, or Garo being edgy for the 9,000th time. All these like cut to blue or cut to red and the color grading you get on the characters, I personally love those. A very creative way to build impact while sticking to a budget. And there's also that shot of when Royal Ripper cut the shit up out of Garo, and he just sits there and enjoys the moment a little too much, which is entirely anime original as well. Loved that, because I read the chapter moments before I watched the episode, mainly because, you know, I sit there at 6 o'clock waiting for the episode to release so I can do that video on it as soon as I possibly can. So I read the source material, so all those differences are already up in my head already. And I remember seeing that and being like, what the hell? I remember that being way creepier, not pink fuzzy and fucking hilarious. And yeah, I was right. This guy is supposed to be like creepy as hell, not enjoying himself a lot. And what I realized is that instead of showing him from our perspective, the viewer's perspective, and him being creepy and terrifying, we see this situation from his perspective, inside his head, and how much joy just doing that brought him. But yeah, there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad in this episode, okay? And I'm just here to express some of the things that I saw and wanted to point out. And as I said, I'd love to hear what you think and what you saw that I missed. Check us out in the comments or join the Discord. I've got like 3 people in there right now and they're really, no one's talking to me. So please join and like, let's point out a few differences together. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching the video. Genuinely really appreciate it. Do not want to spread hate or misinformation or all that bollocks, because there's enough hate in the world. That being said, I'd love to see you in the Discord if you aren't in here already. I'm trying to get a few people in so I can actually yap about One Punch Man, because nobody else wants to talk about it, surprisingly.